Dear ladies, let's talk about the moment you fear the most, but never say out loud. That moment when the man you once laughed with now seems distracted, cold, distant. You sit across from him at dinner, and instead of reaching for your hand, he reaches for his phone. You look at him and wonder, where did we go wrong? But the scarier question is he losing interest in me? I know this hits hard, but let me ask you, will you sit back and wait for your marriage to fall apart quietly? Or will you rise gracefully, powerfully, and fight for your love before it's too late? This is not a blame game, it's a wake-up call, a truth-telling moment for every woman who refuses to be invisible in her own story. And if you're brave enough to keep watching, I promise, by the end of this speech, you'll no longer feel powerless. You'll feel prepared before a man physically walks away, he emotionally drifts. And that drift is almost always quiet. No arguments, no dramatic exits, just a slow, invisible fade. He's there, but he's not present. He hears you, but he doesn't listen. He looks at you, but he's not really seeing you. And the hardest part? You feel it. You sense it in the way he stops sharing the little details of his day, in the way his good morning texts vanish, or how he forgets things about you he once never missed. That disconnection doesn't happen overnight. It happens in inches. One missed conversation, one ignored emotion, one forgotten compliment, and then silence starts to feel louder than words. What makes this emotional distance so devastating is that it doesn't look like anything from the outside. To everyone else, you might still look like the perfect couple. You're still going to dinners, showing up at events, posting the occasional picture. But behind the smiles, your heart is aching. You're holding on to memories tighter than his hand. You're replaying the past to make sense of the present. You start asking yourself, is it me? Am I too much? Not enough? You begin to shrink. You try harder. You overcompensate. You laugh at things that don't feel funny. You tolerate things that feel heavy, all because you're scared. Scared of what this space between you means, scared it's the beginning of the end. But here's the truth no one tells you. Emotional disconnection is not always about betrayal or a third person. Sometimes it's about two people growing in different directions without realizing it. Sometimes love is still there, but it's buried beneath exhaustion, miscommunication, unmet needs, or unspoken resentments. And unless someone stops and says, wait, something's wrong, the emotional gap becomes a canyon. It gets filled with assumptions, silence, and distance. And once that gap grows too wide, it becomes harder and harder to cross. What you need to know is that the first signs are subtle. It's in the way he no longer asks about your dreams, the way he stops teasing you like he used to, the way he avoids eye contact when something serious comes up. These are not just passing moods, these are signs that his heart is withdrawing, and if you ignore them, they don't fix themselves. You have to name the feeling, say it, I feel us drifting, I feel you pulling away. It takes courage to speak up when your pride says, stay quiet. But silence is not safety, it's surrender, and you, my dear, were never meant to surrender your truth to keep someone comfortable. This disconnection, painful as it is also a mirror. It forces you to look not just at him, but also at yourself. Are you speaking your needs? Are you being emotionally available? Are you still meeting each other where it matters? Sometimes we get so caught up in being busy that we forget to be present. We forget to nurture the emotional intimacy that once made love effortless. We become strangers in our own story. But the beautiful thing about emotional distance is that it's not always permanent. It can be a pause, not an ending. If noticed in time, if treated with honesty and tenderness, the heart can reconnect. But you have to be brave enough to face it, to say the hard things, to ask the right questions, and to listen, not to respond, but to understand, because love doesn't disappear in an instant, it dims, slowly, quietly. but with the right intention and effort, it can also reignite. Sometimes all it takes is one person daring to reach out and say, I still care, let's find our way back. When love begins to feel ordinary, when the days start to blur into one another, when the spark that once made you both laugh without reason begins to flicker, that's when routine becomes a silent enemy. It's not the big arguments or the loud fights that first break a bond. It's the repetition, the monotony, the predictability, when every morning feels the same and every evening ends in silence. Something inside the relationship begins to fade. You wake up next to the same person, but you feel like strangers passing through a schedule instead of soulmates living a love story. You might start to feel like your roommates, not partners. You cook the same meals, talk about the same bills, go to the same places, wear the same old clothes, not just on your body, but on your emotions too. The romance becomes mechanical, the excitement gone. And without even realizing it, you stop trying, he stops asking questions, you stop giving answers, and slowly you both just exist. But love wasn't meant to be lived on autopilot. Love was meant to evolve, to surprise, to grow with you. And if you want to save a relationship from dying under the weight of routine, you have to wake it up. You have to shock it back to life, not by becoming someone else, but by rediscovering the parts of yourself that once lit the fire in the first place. Think back to when you first met him. Who were you? What did you do that made him fall in love with you? Were you playful, adventurous, full of dreams and stories? That woman still lives in you. She didn't disappear. She just got buried under responsibilities, fatigue, and the pressure to keep it all together. And if you want to reignite his interest, you have to reconnect with her, change the pattern. Break the routine. Don't wait for him to bring back the spark. Be the spark. Wear that color he hasn't seen in years. Surprise him with a date night he didn't expect. Send a message in the middle of the day that makes him remember why he chose you. Cook something new, say something bold, dance in the kitchen, laugh loudly, be unpredictable again, not to impress him, but to awaken yourself. Because here's the truth, a woman who is in love with her own life becomes magnetic. She draws attention, not just from her partner, but from the world. And when your energy shifts, when you stop moving through life like a checklist and start living like it matters again, he'll notice. He won't be able to ignore it. He'll feel the pull again. He'll remember what it was like to want you, not just be around you. Sometimes, when a man loses interest, it's not because he stopped loving you. It's because the love stopped evolving. It got stuck. And routine, while comfortable, can become a cage if you stay in it too long. So shake things up. Reintroduce him to the woman who once stole his breath. And while you're at it, reintroduce yourself to her too, because the power to make your love story unforgettable was never in his hands. It was always in yours. If you constantly find yourself wondering, does he still love me? Or why isn't he the way he used to be? Then stop. Just stop. Take a deep breath and ask yourself a different question. Do I still love myself the way I used to? Because the moment you begin to doubt your worth based on someone else's attention, you've already started to abandon yourself. And that's not love. That's surrendering your power. You don't need to twist yourself into versions of someone else just to feel seen again. You don't need to walk on eggshells, waiting for his validation like it's the sun that makes your world spin. The truth is, somewhere in trying to hold it all together, your marriage, your home, your image, you stopped holding on to yourself. You stopped asking what you want, what you feel, what you need. And darling, that's the beginning of losing the most important relationship in your life, the one you have with you. Reclaiming your power starts by remembering that you are not an option. You are not a backup plan or a fading photograph from the past. You are a whole, beautiful, evolving woman with dreams that still matter and a heart that still beats with purpose. The moment you start waiting for him to notice your pain before you acknowledge it yourself, you've given him the remote control to your happiness. Why should your emotional survival depend on how much effort he puts in? Stand up, look in the mirror, really look, not at the tiredness in your eyes or the flaws you think you've gathered over the years. Look at the strength you've built, the storms you've survived, the kindness you still offer even when you're breaking inside. That woman, she is enough, more than enough. If he's lost interest, let him. You're not here to beg for love. You're not here to chase affection like it's a prize to be earned. The woman who begs to be chosen again has forgotten that she already was, by herself, by life, by God. And if a man can't see that, maybe his eyes were never wide open to begin with. You deserve to be loved deeply, yes, but not at the cost of your dignity. If you find yourself constantly proving your worth, constantly adjusting your tone, your body, your goals just to keep someone's gaze, then you're not in love, you're in survival mode. And relationships aren't meant to feel like survival. So pause the chasing, pause the proving, instead pour that energy back into your soul. Take yourself out, do that thing you've been putting off, return to your passions, return to your joy, return to yourself. When you light your own fire, the right ones will gather around your warmth without needing to be begged. And maybe, just maybe, when you stop waiting to be chosen again, when you step back into your own light, he'll finally see you again. Not because you needed him to, but because you reminded yourself of who you are. And once a woman remembers that, there's no turning back. That's the moment she stops needing permission. That's the moment she becomes unstoppable. That's the moment she becomes irresistible, first to herself, then to the world. Maybe he's just tired. Maybe it's just work stress. Maybe I'm overthinking things. These may sound like harmless thoughts, but when repeated enough times, they become dangerous lies we tell ourselves to avoid facing a heartbreaking truth. Something is not right. When the communication between you and your husband starts to fade, when conversations become short, forced, or even non-existent, it's not just a rough patch, it's a silent alarm, and the longer you ignore it, the more damage it causes. Lack of communication isn't just a phase. It's not something to sweep under the rug with the hope that one magical day things will go back to normal. When someone stops talking, it's not just their words you're losing. It's their emotions, their intentions, their connection. You begin to feel like you're living with a stranger. You ask about his day and he gives you one-word answers. You try to share your feelings and he shuts down or walks away. And that hurts more than an argument ever could, because silence has a way of making you feel invisible. But here's the raw truth. People don't stop talking overnight. They stop when they feel unheard, misunderstood, dismissed, or when they begin to believe that speaking won't change anything. And sadly, most women stay quiet about this silence. They pretend things are fine because they're afraid of what speaking up might lead to. They don't want to cause a fight. They don't want to seem too emotional. So they adapt to the silence, and in doing so, they abandon their need for intimacy, connection, and honesty. But what you don't confront will eventually consume you. You can't build a healthy relationship on silence. Love requires words, raw, vulnerable, uncomfortable words. You have to talk even when your voice shakes. You have to ask the hard questions, not just "Are you okay?" but "Why are we not talking the way we used to? Do you still feel connected to me? Is there something you're not saying?" Because if you don't ask, you'll spend your nights inventing answers in your head, and those imagined answers will always hurt more than the truth. The most dangerous thing about poor communication is that it becomes normal. You get used to it, you begin lowering your expectations, you stop sharing your dreams, you stop talking about your fears, you just move through the days side by side but never heart to heart, and before you know it, you're not just emotionally distant, you're emotionally divorced. So don't wait until it's too late. Don't let pride, fear, or false hope keep you silent, because your feelings are not a burden. Your need for real conversation is not too much. You're not being dramatic for wanting emotional connection. You're human, you're a woman who deserves to be heard, understood, and cherished. And if you feel like you're losing your partner to silence, don't wait for him to come to you. Take the first step. Speak, not to accuse, but to understand. Not to blame, but to rebuild, and if he listens, you'll begin to heal. If he doesn't, you'll gain clarity. Either way, you'll be choosing yourself. You'll be standing up for the love you want and the respect you deserve. Because communication is not just a relationship skill, it's the heartbeat of connection, and you deserve nothing less than a love that beats loud, clear, and alive. We often think intimacy is about what happens behind closed doors. The candles, the physical closeness, the touches, but real intimacy starts long before that. It begins in the quiet spaces between words, in the way he looks at you when you speak, in the way you reach for his hand in silence. In the small gestures, the ones no one else sees, that whisper, "I'm still here, I still care, I still want us." But when emotional intimacy dies, even the most passionate physical moments feel empty. They become routine. Like something to check off a list instead of something to experience and enjoy. And if your husband seems distant, uninterested, or disconnected, don't just try to fix it with seduction. That might work for a night, but it won't heal the cracks. You can't rebuild a house with a coat of paint. You have to go to the foundation, and in marriage, that foundation is emotional safety, trust, vulnerability. You have to ask, when was the last time we really talked? Not about chores or work or the kids, but about us. When was the last time I told him how I truly feel? When was the last time I asked him how he feels? Not just the surface stuff, but the deep, hidden parts he doesn't show to the world. Sometimes men pull away because they don't know how to express what's going on inside. They're taught to be strong, silent, in control, so they disconnect, they go quiet, they carry the weight alone, and we, as women, sometimes take that distance personally. We assume it's about us, that we're not enough anymore, that we've lost our charm, but more often than not, it's not rejection. It's emotional confusion. He doesn't know how to open up, and he doesn't know if you're still a safe space. That's why vulnerability matters. That's why saying something as simple as "I miss you," not just being near you, but feeling close to you, can be more powerful than anything else, because that opens the door, that says, "I see the distance, and I care enough to cross it." And when you open that door with gentleness, not accusation, with love, not pressure, something shifts. He softens, he leans in, not always right away, but slowly, because men crave intimacy too. They just don't always have the words for it. Bringing back emotional closeness means making space again for real connection. It means creating moments where both of you can just be, no distractions, no phones, no kids, just the two of you. Maybe it's over coffee. Maybe it's during a walk. Maybe it's lying in bed with the lights off, just talking about life like you used to when love was new. Intimacy is built in those small choices, choosing to listen even when you're tired, choosing to ask even when you're afraid of the answer, choosing to share even when it feels easier to keep it inside. And yes, the physical will follow, but only when the emotional is present, only when the trust is rebuilt. Only when both of you feel like you're not just lovers, but safe places for each other to land. So don't chase the spark. Create space for it to return, and if it does, it won't just be exciting. It will be real. It will be sacred, and it will be yours. You were not created to live unnoticed in your own story. You were not meant to shrink so someone else could feel tall. And if you're waking up every day wondering if you're still enough, still wanted, still lovable, then let me remind you of something powerful. You deserve to be seen, heard, and loved fully, not halfway. Not when it's convenient, not only when you're doing everything right, but fully, on your best days and your worst ones. There comes a point in every woman's life where she has to stop chasing love that's drifting and start reclaiming the love she's forgotten to give herself. If your husband is pulling away, if his attention is fading, if he no longer looks at you the way he once did, it doesn't mean you've failed, it doesn't mean you're broken, it means it's time to pause and look deeper. Into the relationship, yes, but more importantly into yourself, because no man, no matter how much you love him, should hold the power to define your worth. You can't keep dimming your light just to keep the peace. You can't keep swallowing your feelings just to avoid conflict. You can't keep overperforming, overgiving, and overcompensating, hoping he'll notice and come closer. That's not love, that's survival, and you weren't made to survive in a marriage. You were made to thrive in it. It's okay to want connection, to crave affection, to need emotional and physical intimacy. That doesn't make you needy, it makes you human. But if you have to keep proving your worth being loved, you're already giving too much of yourself away. You were never supposed to become invisible in your own home. You were never meant to feel like a background character in your own marriage. So ask yourself, when did you stop asking for what you deserve? When did you begin accepting crumbs when you once had the whole cake? When did you let the fear of being alone become louder than your voice? Because the moment you start settling for less than full, complete, soul, nourishing love, you begin to disappear. Not all at once, but piece by piece, and no relationship is worth losing yourself. You deserve more. You deserve conversations where you don't have to beg to be understood. You deserve affection that isn't conditional on performance. You deserve to be kissed like it's the first time and listened to like your words matter. You deserve a partner who sees you not as a duty, but as a desire. And maybe right now, your husband is too distracted, too disconnected, or too emotionally unavailable to offer that. But don't let that make you forget who you are. Don't let his silence drown out your truth. You don't need to scream or fight to be noticed. You need to stand in your worth, stand in your light. Stand in the truth that you were never meant to be tolerated. You were meant to be treasured. And if he remembers what he once had, beautiful. If he doesn't, heartbreaking. But still, you rise, because your wholeness is not tied to his presence. Your completeness is not dependent on his attention. You are already enough, already powerful, already deserving. So don't beg to be loved. Be the kind of woman who reminds herself she always was. And when you do, the right people won't just see you, they'll cherish you. They'll fight for you, and they'll never let your light go dim again.